First thing I want to do to make the hand wheel is to cut a blank. I've got a piece of 3/4 inch Baltic birch plywood here, and I'm going to cut it to 5.5 inches square. So I can do the actual layout for the hand wheel. You know, it needs to be round, and if you start with a square, it's very easy to mark the center on those. Just had to sharpen my pencil. So I got my blank here, 5.5 inches. Like I said, I'm going for a 5-inch hand wheel. So I'm just gonna mark the center by going across the corners here, like so. I'm making a X. And the X actually is handy to have for another reason. I want to make a series of holes around it to make it look cooler. So next thing to do is get my compact compass here and set that using the tape on my table saw to 1/2 of 5, which is 2.5, and just lock that in position, and then stab the nail in the center there and draw the circle around like that, and you have the circle. Next I'm going to take my shop-made protractor, I think that's what this is called, that measures angles, and I'm going to use that to, actually I can't use that because it's too big. I won't be able to do that. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to take this offcut of plywood here, and I'm going to make a 60-degree block here on my miter saw. Get out of the way, focus. On my miter saw by setting the saw to 30 degrees. See, like that. Isn't math great? So I use that and I'll line that up with that diagonal I drew on there. I'm trying to do all this without moving the camera, by the way, so position it so you can see. So that's the first one, and then there's the second one, lines up the same way, like so. So I'm going to have a hole here, 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 and then 2 more on the other side, so that makes a total of 6. So I've got them all marked out. I'll bring it over to the drill press. First thing I'll do is I'll drill the center hole, because I've already got a 3/8 inch bit in there, and then I'll drill the 1-inch holes around. I mentioned why I use a drill press table before, another video on my scrap bin channel, and I think it was, anyway, yeah it was. And another reason is if you have this, spoil board here, then any chips that gather on it, you just take it and dump it in your garbage can, which you absolutely need right beside your drill press anyway. So 1-inch hole with a 1-inch Forstner bit right here. Lift my table up a little bit, and then put my key back. Okay, all the holes are drilled. Now I can bring it over to the, actually I got one more hole to drill, and that's for the crank handle, and that's a 1/4 inch, so I'll do that now while I'm here. I don't have a location laid out for it, but it's not critical. It needs to be close to the rim. I'd say a 1/2 inch in should do it. And let's get the drill bit put in here and tighten that up. I had a comment recently about tightening the 2 holes in here. That's the way you're supposed to tighten these. You don't just tighten one, you tighten all 3 if you really want the thing tight. Okay, I've got all the rounding done, and I added the bolt to it that the handle will go on there. So to make the handle, I've got a piece of scrap maple here. And the handle doesn't have to be big, and it doesn't have to be round. It can be square. It doesn't have to be complicated at all. I'm going to turn mine on the lathe, but you don't have to. You could use a dowel, just drill a hole through the center, that would be fine. It has to fit loosely on this bolt though. And I'm gonna make mine 2 inches long, and I'm gonna make it around 3/4 of an inch. I find that to be the right feel for this type of thing. Okay, so I'm happy with the shape, the way it feels. I didn't sand it. I don't think it needs it. Smooth enough. To drill out this to the final size, which is just a bit bigger than 1/4 inch, I'm going to work my way up. I'm going to start with a smaller drill bit, and I'm going to drill from both sides again, and then I'm going to work my way up, like I said, using a bigger bit until I get up to, I think, 9/32, and that'll make it, you know, loose enough around the thing. And then what I'll do is I'll just trim off the end over here where it's going to be too long, and then I'll put it on the handle, and it'll be done. All right, with the handle done, I've put it on the crank. All I need to do is tighten up the bolts or nuts, I guess, and do that. I got a wrench that fits in here, and then a socket on the other side to really snug them up tight. And then the way this works is the handle here is free to turn so that you can wind the crank like that. And then this thing goes on my router lift, which is right here, and it goes down here, slips on that shaft. I've already got a nut and a washer on there. I'll put another washer on, and the outside nut. And once again, 2 wrenches to tighten those up. And it will be good to go.